In 2000, right after the turn of the millennium, I began my search for Echo Blue, who was the most famous child star of the late 20th century. I was obsessed. But you already know this. I was covering the New Year's celebration at the New York Times because I wasn't talented enough to get a job at the New York Times. Instead, I was an entry-level reporter at Manhattan Eye. I was at ME because they were the only ones to give me a callback. This wasn't something I would readily admit. I was 22, and I should have felt lucky to have the job. ME was an institution, a respected magazine, a stepping stone for Times journalists and editors. But it was also a dinosaur sans the Times subscription numbers. I had agreed to this assignment because I didn't have any plans for that night, and I thought I could at least introduce myself to a few people. Except all the editors were drunk. There was no networking to be done. Among the desks and offices of the Times 11th floor, a fancy dinner of filet mignon and shrimp was served by waiters wearing white gloves, while jazz from a live band floated from the brightly lit balcony. Old white editors stood around their printers and desks in stuffy black and white tuxedos. It was like witnessing the sinking of the Titanic. The staff writers huddled alone at their desks behind big windowed offices, clearly too busy to participate, or at least hoping to seem like they were. I passed the office of Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist Siobhan O'Donnell 3 times, staring as she clacked away at her keyboard, until she threw a book at me and screamed to stop skulking around her door. I nibbled on a few shrimp, took a sip out of the engraved champagne flutes that read 010000. I snapped a photo of the incorrect date. Then a reporter who I think was on acid shouted, "Don't you dare take a picture of me!" and hid behind a cubicle. In the corner of the room, there were 3 large televisions on a table turned to local news stations. No one seemed to be paying attention, so I inched my way over to one of the televisions and casually flipped the channel to MTV, where I expected to see Echo Blue cozily chatting with TRL host Carson Daly. They had promoted her appearance for weeks. Instead, a commotion had erupted, with producers on their mics scrambling in the background. Then Carson Daly spoke directly into the camera. "Okay, guys, it looks like Echo Blue can't make it." The studio audience groaned. "I know. Really sorry, everyone." Then he whispered to someone off camera, though the mic was still hot. "They don't know where she is at all?" He composed himself and faced forward. "I know everyone was looking forward to hearing from her. I certainly was. And I'm sure we'll see her soon. Echo, Happy New Year." It was like an electric bolt jolted me back into my childhood, where I had locked up years of memories. Echo Blue hadn't shown up for her gig? What did this mean? I looked around for someone who was as alarmed as I was. There she was, her face plastered across the screen of at least one of the televisions. But these arrogant New York Times editors remained focused on their millennium cake and shrimp. These had been people I wanted to impress only minutes before, but now I judged them for their indifference toward what was potentially the biggest celebrity news story of the decade. In June, Echo Blue had finished a stint in rehab for exhaustion. Up until that point, Echo's life was a movie unto itself. Her parents were Hollywood royalty. Her mother was Matilda Portman, who starred in the classic television show Gold Rush, and her father, Jamie Blue, was once one of the industry's most handsome and charismatic stars. Plus, Echo starred in 6 films in 6 years, one of them winning her an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress when she was only 14. I hate sounding like a tabloid, but for the sake of brevity, Echo went from golden child to messy ingenue practically overnight. That's when the trouble started for her, the kind of real salacious gossip that turns actors into caricatures.